I do still want to come back to the personality stuff about like how what I'm putting forward is some sort of persona and not entirely my truest form of self. To which Afim asks, what even is a self if there's a truest self? I do want to elaborate a little bit on this because I think that it's very, very easy to brush off this idea of like, oh man, people are wearing masks and wearing masks is a bad thing. And where I mostly do agree with the sentiment of that statement is like you shouldn't really try to adapt yourself or force very crucial parts of your persona away from you. If you are someone who really enjoys being a certain way or really values something and you have to push that away for people to like you, you're not having people like you. You're having people like this person that you're putting out there. And you're probably not going to be happy with these people because these people are not people who like you. You can't convert someone into liking you if you're just faking who you are. But at the same time, you can't always be exactly yourself. You can't be exactly the same person everywhere to everyone at the same time. Because as I said before, it's like my personal self when I'm like off camera is going to be way quieter than I'm right now. Does that mean that I am not being myself by talking a lot? It's like, well, have you heard me talk quite a bit? I do like talking. I do really, really like talking. So, like that's also a part of me that I enjoy. I think that goes to show that there's different modes in which you can be your true self given the situation. For example, one of the problems that we've seen arise over the internet over the last few years is the problem of monetization and censorship of the internet, which has been people getting demonetized for saying words like shit and fuck or bad words that right now oh boy, you can't say that anymore these times. And I think that there is something where we need to clarify a little bit as to like what's going on there. I don't necessarily believe all that much in that you are absolutely forbidden to say whole heaps of words because oh my god, shit may be bad or fuck may be bad. It's like I don't necessarily subscribe to that because I've come from Europe and here basically what we've seen is censorship hasn't been that much as we've seen in the United States. So having like television shows like censor all the bad nasty words of like bleeps, that's something that we didn't really have all that much, and I always thought it was really weird, especially for adult shows. At the same time, though, I can also imagine how you don't want to be vulgar for the sake of being vulgar in just like a professional piece of content. And I think that that's something that we've seen with YouTube and Twitch. Kind of in the early days, we saw these worlds collide. Afim says, could one argue that being vulgar, professional, etc. are all just these things because everyone agrees that they are, but realistically these divisions are made up? I think that it's not necessarily made up all that much. I think that it is more so that people do recognize certain differences in modes of being depending on the situation you are, and obviously there is part of that that's made up and that's socially decided as like, hey, I feel like this is professional and that isn't professional. I think that there is like a gradation to it because obviously when you're with your friends you're going to be different than when you are with your coworkers, and that's just because you know people differently. I have what I call the axis of respect, where basically the more that I know a person, my respect for them increases over time. But then if I know them really, really well, my respect for them like absolutely sinks down to the bottom. Why is that? It's because if I know you really well as a good friend, like we can talk shit to each other because we both know that we're all good. So I don't need to tell you like, oh, you're such a good friend. Oh, you're so nice. Oh, you're so good to me, because we already know that. So I could just talk shit about you. We can go and like have some fun with each other, have at it. And I think that that's something that comes very natural to everyone, where everyone, if they have a really good friend, they're more inclined to, poke fun at them because they know it's all good. You don't have to show more respect to this person because you already know that. And I think that that is something where we haven't categorized where like, hey, in this point in time, you're going to talk shit to someone because that's where they are. Or at this point in time, you're going to be very polite to them because that's where they are. It's like you just notice that these changes are there, and then people add on to that a certain flavor of like, okay, so now if you are like colleagues or you're on like your colleagues and you're speaking to each other inside a work setting, you have to say something like this or you have to address something like this. Like that is where people personally add their personal flavor to it. On a change or a difference that they already notice is there. And I think that that's also something that we've seen with YouTube and Twitch, where in the early days, people were just sitting here in their bedrooms, just talking to a camera as though they would be talking to their friends, or they'd be gaming together as though they'd be gaming with their friends. And then this thing kind of blew up. And in that space where you're just gaming with your friends or talking to your friends, you're talking very differently. You're going to be a lot more harsh and rude. You're going to be saying things as you would in Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. And I think that those gamer lobbies in Modern Warfare 2, I don't personally see a problem with them at all. If people want to be rude and vulgar in these lobbies, I mean, like, they're just gaming in their own bedroom. They want to be rude and vulgar, whatever, right? If you don't like it, you mute it. Who cares? It's just a gaming lobby. Get into another gaming lobby. Who the fuck cares? However, once you get into the world of entertainment, which slowly just morphed into, it wasn't just people uploading their kill streaks on YouTube because, hey, look at this, it's just kind of fun to share this with my friends. Now all of a sudden you have basically YouTubers and Twitch streamers becoming television programming, where right now you're watching my stream or you're watching my video rather than watching the latest episode of whatever is on TV. Now it kind of adds a certain level of professionalism to it. Now, is that professionalism warranted? I don't entirely know. On the one hand, you'd say, well, it's just the same video. Who cares how many people watch it? On the other hand, if you have something that's being broadcast to a whole bunch of people and you're out there taking the, the rewards of having so many people watch it, then you should also do your duties. If you take the rewards, do your duties. And I do think that that's where there is like kind of been the clash over the last couple of years, where it just kind of started out with people just being whoever they are in their personal, private, spare time and being in that way like very crude. And that's right, because in your personal time, like you're gonna be crude. You are crude in your spare time. You're gonna be in like if you're alone in your room, you're gonna be different than you're out in the street. And that is perfectly fine because we all are like that. However, once you bring it to the outside world as a place of entertainment, I think especially if you want to use this as a place of generating revenue, make yourself a platform that people want to advertise onto, then I think things change. And I think that that's the biggest change that we've seen over YouTube and Twitch over the years, is that people have wanted to make this like spare crew time their platform to advertise things onto and make that their portfolio that they can share in their professional world. And we all know that there is a like innate difference between the way that you interact at your workplace and that you interact at home. Like there just is. Obviously, there's also like made up rules there, but at the same time, you interact there differently. And I think that the moment that we started adding advertising to YouTube and you started adding advertising to Twitch, now people want to promote things, you're going to see that there is like a different expectation of behavior. And I think that expectation of behavior is fine. I think it's also swung a bit too far into the other direction, but we're kind of like trying to course correct. All around the world, people are way different in the way that they perceive personal interactions. Like for instance, in America, people are very, very focused on like the type of label that they attach to someone. Like they're so focused there. It's so important there, like what kind of person you are, like what kind of group you belong to, what kind of like the way you look, like your sexuality is so important to them. We're here, like no one cares. It's like you can be whatever. Like who gives a fuck? It's like how tall you are, how long your hair is. It's like the color of your eyes. Who the fuck cares? But in America, that's really important. So that's where, like they put a lot of emphasis on it. They also want to put a lot of emphasis on like making sure that no one goes bad on that. No one says anything bad about that, which I think is a bit counterintuitive. It's like when I was in middle school or in high school or in primary school, if there was something that, they wanted us to be more normal with, like let's say we had someone in class who was like disabled in some way, basically like the way that they would better integrate that was like just be like, hey, like let's look at the ways that we are the same and work with that rather than be like, hey, little Timmy is disabled. Let's not make fun of him being disabled. Like his weird crooked leg. Let's not make fun of his weird crooked leg. It's like if you point that out, children are going to act differently. Don't think about a pink elephant, basically, is the way that I would describe that. So that's the way that we view things differently here in Europe than we do in America. But because a lot of these companies are American and people are trying to set like a worldwide standard, you're going to have this thing where people are trying to decide to codify the way that we interact with each other in different settings. Like this is the way you got to interact if you work with advertising. This is the way you got to interact when you type out a tweet. I don't necessarily think if you're not streaming to anybody or you're not trying to advertise your products like whatever to anything, if you're not trying to use your platform to advertise something, you're just trying to have a fun time on the internet and like who cares, right? Then I don't really think that you should be beholden to the rules that YouTube sets to their YouTubers, or you should be beholden to the rules that Twitch streamers try to set in their speech. Like seriously, like we recently had a clip on TwitchCon where someone smacked a bug that was like on food, which like we all do, and then people are like, oh shit, is that not allowed in Twitch? Like you did a very offensive thing, like you smashed a bug. Now all of a sudden, like you might get banned on Twitch. It's like, man, that's stupid, right? That's really dumb. You shouldn't be worried about the next bug you see on your table and you want to smack it. Smack it. Just feel like it, right? If that's the way you do, that's the way you do. Don't let Twitch decide that for you. But then again, I can imagine if it's Twitch, you're doing a very family-friendly show and you don't want to bring in the topic of death or whatever into it, you probably don't like that. So yeah, I do think that that's kind of like the difference that we see. But I also wonder if right now, if you're trying to course correct too much into that, if you're gonna get like the fakery that we have on TV, which is something that I really want to stay away from. Like I really like the naturalness that YouTube and Twitch brought, especially early on, where it's like this is just someone like me, and we can reach out to each other and we can talk to each other because we're very relatable.